Welcome to D20 Woodworking. We finally hit the end of the next evolution cycle, and coming up will be, what's it called? Age of Apocalypse. I gotta learn that now. But we're finally at the end of the next evolution cycle. We've done everything. We reviewed everything. I'll put the reviews. I think they go in this one of these two corners. I think it's this one though. I'll put a playlist up there or videos or whatever, or at least of the last few reviews, so you can check them out, see my overall thoughts. But it'd be fun. I thought it'd be fun to talk about this cycle as a whole, what I really liked, what I didn't like, etc., etc., and then kind of just compare the cycle to other cycles, right? Where does this rank in all the cycles? Is it the best? Is it the worst? Is it in the middle? Who knows? So we're gonna go check that out. Right before we do though, do me a huge favor. Make sure you go to twitch.tv/D20 Woodworking and join our live streaming community. It's a lot of fun. If you have not been a part of a live stream yet, it's a ton of fun. It's a really cool place just to hang out, talk with people that just like board games. A lot of it's Marvel Champions, but not all of it. We talk about different board games. Sometimes we play video games randomly and just, again, talk about whatever. It's a good time. It's a lot of fun to hang out. Link is down below. Right down there is Discord too. You should go check that out as well. So, all right, let's go check out Next Evolution. All right, here we go. We are on Next Evolution. This is the page with let's see, we got Psylocke, we got Angel, X23, and Deadpool. I don't even know if they updated these yet. They were falling behind on these for a while, but anyway. All right, so I thought first, we're not going to do reviews of everything. We've done reviews of everything, but now that I've played more Cable, more Domino, more everyone else, like kind of where do I feel about a lot of this stuff? Cable, I still think has gotten better with the more personal side schemes that have come out. This was one of my big things about him early on, is that he's a little weak feeling because, the personal side schemes aren't there. I still think he's getting better each time, and I still think he's fun. He's actually grown on me a bit more in the fun factor. I don't like him in leadership though. I actually like him in Justice for solo, which is so cliche, I know, but I still like him a lot in Justice just because I want to get rid of these personal side schemes as fast as possible, and then you can just kind of deck them out with personal side scheme benefits. I think have been pretty cool and pretty good. So I think Cable is good. I've enjoyed Cable for what he is. He's not my favorite, but you know what? I think I like him more than I did when I first started this game. Then we have Domino, who I think is absolutely goated, absolutely fantastic. Domino's big critique to me is that you play her 15 cards, and then you play her 16th card here with the White Fox, possibly 17th card with the Posse, possibly 18, 19, 20 cards, and the 21st card, right? Like there's certain cards you should just have in her deck, and over half of it is basic cards that basically go in every single deck. Whatever aspect you play her in, I don't know if it really matters too much. And this is, to me, the biggest issue with Domino moving forward. Again, I still have a great time playing her. I still think it's fun manipulating the deck. I just like deck manipulation in general, I think. It's a lot of fun. I like messing around with the Posse stuff. I think it's cool. I hope they kind of keep letting us lean more into the Posse stuff. Justice makes a lot of sense for her. I like aggression with her. I wasn't a big fan of protection or leadership, but aggression and justice I like with her. I think is good. I take that back. Leadership wasn't bad if you start using it to bump up the Posse and like go really hard on the Posse route. That can actually be kind of fun. I really like everything as a protection. I think protection, I know some people have gotten it to work, but I really haven't. So I will say for heroes in a box, I mean, this is some of the best we've had. Right, so Red Skull, we had Spider-Woman and Hawkeye, which I know people love Hawkeye, and I'm fine with Hawkeye. Spider-Woman is absolutely fantastic, but I think Hawkeye was the weaker one in that box. Then we had Groot and Rocket, who, again, I like both of them, but they are on the weaker side of things. This is a mess. I think Adam Warlock and Spectrum, I just do not like personally. Miles and Gwen, I think, are both goated and both fantastic. So that's to me the gold standard of the box or boxes. Shadowcat and Colossus, I love Shadowcat. Colossus I wasn't a big fan of. So I do think the heroes that came in this box was still some of the best, right? I think from that standpoint, it's some of the best that we have going on there. Now, my biggest critique, I think, for the villain side of things, we'll get back into the heroes when we do the hero packs, but for the villain side of things, I still think my biggest critique holds, it's too easy. The box is too easy. So the Morlock Siege stuff is interesting enough. I think it's fine with what they're trying to do. But it's just, when you work with the knock counters, right, you make sure that this doesn't pop. Make sure this is fine. So you get 2 Morlocks in with tough. and you just push hard. And because they have so little life, it's not that hard to push. I mean, even on the flip side, 12 health, I mean, a good attack and a swing like knocks that out, right? So it shouldn't be that hard for you to beat. Yeah, I think it's way too easy. It's a way too easy situation. On the run is at least a little more interesting. Excuse me, with Hope's captor and whatnot. I think it's fine, right? It's the expert side of things is a little bit tougher, but on standard, again, way too easy. So yeah, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of this, but it's a little bit tougher. It obviously depends on which Marauder you draw, can make it a lot easier, a lot tougher. So certain people like Grey Crow and Harpoon, if I remember correctly, are pretty tough or can be pretty tough to deal with. So, kind of depends on what you draw there too. Juggernaut, I think, was the standout scenario of the box. The problem is he's still easy, right? Flip Juggernaut, get his helmet off, attack him with Hope, right? That's your overall like rough plan, and swing a lot when his helmet is off. And he's not that hard. He's really easy. I think Hope, them forcing you to add the Hope modular, which is here, makes the scenario way too easy, unfortunately. But it's still fun, right? Thematically, it's fun. Thematically, it works. It's cool. I still like doing it because I think they did a really good job design-wise, with the exception of Hope. I thought they did a really good job with this. And Hope is going to be my biggest issue with the rest of this box, that she is in every single scenario. It's crazy to me that they put every single one, or her in every single one. And she's can be beast. I mean, she takes your stats, which can be huge. Super strong. Mr. Sinister, again, he's fine. You kind of just make sure on your main schemes you time it out for when the main scheme should flip, and then you just kind of get ready to make that final push with Sinister ends. It's not that hard, right? It's not that hard. Expert is a bit tougher, but that's most experts are a bit tougher. So yeah, I think Mr. Sinister is a bit easy. Don't get me wrong, it's still a fine scenario. I still enjoy playing it for what it is now and again. It's not a big deal, but it is a bit easier. I actually think he's more interesting than Strife is. I think Strife is too easy all around. I think Strife is really easy. I don't know, but what it makes me feel like what they were trying to do, is they were with the common hand types, they were trying to punish you with that and whatever, but like it's just so easy to either discard cards because it lets you discard them, right? On 1B, I believe you can discard them. So you can discard them to like kind of like recalculate it and whatever. And this is just frozen right there. That's really cool. So that's fine. There we go. I think them adding the extra, 2 hand size on 2B, right? Giving the 2 hand size and increase the resource cost by 1. Like, yeah, it's a little tough, but as long as you time it right, like you're just going to push really hard. I don't know. On standard, I didn't have that many issues with Strife or Mr. Sinister. Mr. Sinister, I feel like was a little bit tougher because the main scheme had a better chance of popping. 8's pretty high. So working around that isn't the worst. The whole living bomb thing is an interesting idea, and it really stops people from Hulk being able to do a fair amount. But it's just I've reviewed this. I've gone over it. I still think overall, after playing them a lot more now, it's still too easy. I think the cycle as a whole is too easy. I think it was a step back in difficulty from Mutant Genesis. Mutant Genesis, I thought, was a good base starting point for the trilogy of X-Men stuff. I would have liked to see Next Evolution been a little bit harder. So anyway, that's still my number one critique. And really quick with that, because I know people are going to say this in the comments. I know they're going to say it, is that, oh, well, you can make it more difficult with modular sets, right? It doesn't matter that it's easy because you can make it more difficult. You can make it more difficult with modular sets. I don't like that argument at all. The reason being is because that applies to everything, right? Is Rodin too tough? Just switch out the modulars to something super easy, right? Is Venom Goblin too tough? Switch out to easier modular sets with him, right? Switch out everything. You can apply that to everything, so then balance doesn't matter, right? Then it's incumbent upon the player to balance it out with modular sets. And if something is really easy, like I think some of these are really easy, we only have like a handful of modular sets that are super difficult. So it's just, okay, they have to play with the same modular sets over and over and over to get to a decent challenge. Now, I think the power level of the villains should correspond with the power level of the heroes. This entire cycle, the hero power level increased, and they all got a lot more powerful, which is fine. Don't care. But I think if you were going to do that, the villains should get more powerful as well. And I feel like they did not at all. At best, they plateaued. I think they personally went down a little bit because Magneto is still a tougher challenge, I think, overall. The rest of them are kind of toss-ups here and there. So I'm not a big fan of that argument. I know people will make it. I know it will come down in the comments, but that's my response to that argument. If you want to make that argument, that's fine, but that's my response to that argument. All right, then we have Psylocke, who I was pretty tough on in my review, and I kind of stand by it. Now, here's the thing. People have been confusing this with that I hate Psylocke. I don't hate Psylocke. I think Psylocke is fine, right? She's just fine. She's fine. She's fine. I don't think she's amazing. I don't think that anything she does is amazing. Like, even just looking through these cards and the amount of text I have to read to kind of do the same exact thing of like confuse an enemy and do a couple damage and confuse an enemy and do a couple damage. And like, God, it's a lot of reading. It's a lot of exhaustion. But look, here's the thing. Like I said, I don't hate Psylocke. I know this is slowly becoming a meme where like, oh, D20 hates Psylocke. I don't hate Psylocke. I think she's fine, right? I'm going to be doing a hero review in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to review everyone. Realistically, she's going to be in the middle somewhere, right? That's probably where she's going to be. So I think she's fine. Power level wise, I think she's good. I think she's good for what she is. I don't know if she's as strong as some of the other people. She might actually be the weakest one, which is weird. Now that I think about it, actually, I think about it, she might be the weakest one, which is weird now that I think about that. But anyway, she's fine, right? She's fine. That's all I have to really say about her. Then we have Angel, who I did not know how much I would like Angel. And Angel to me is a very safe hero, right? Very straightforward. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. But that's just how it kind of plays to me. It's very, very basic. Anyone can kind of pick up and play, which I think is good to have a hero like that in each cycle, because it allows, as a whole, if you're trying to introduce somebody to the X-Men stuff, like, hey, start with Angel. He's pretty straightforward in the way he works. A lot of the timing stuff is like, there could be little tricks here and there, but it's nothing like too crazy. And he's strong, right? He's very, very strong. The fact that you can do his Archangel thing, so that after you play an aerial event, deal damage equal to the printed cost of it. Do that with Razor Dive, and I mean you're looking at doing 3 for 9 damage, plus then Angel Exhaust for the 2 damage, right? Like 11 damage is really strong. And then if you can get it so that you recall that card, or if you use Techno-Organic Wings, right, and then reduce the cost of it, and Avian Anatomy, you help pay for it to recall that card and be able to do it again, like that's so strong. That can be so strong. It's a really good combo with just like his cards going on. I think it's fun. His playstyle is a little bit more style where it doesn't need as much build out, which I think I like a lot. So I mean, again, I don't mind Angel. I think he's fine. I think he's enjoyable. So yeah, I think he's been good so far. X23, I think, was the biggest shocker for me. Personally, again, in my review, I talked about how I didn't really know how this would all line up, how different things would work and whatnot, and X23 can crush it. Absolutely crush it. She's amazing. She plays in every aspect well and feels different in each aspect, which is the bigger thing that I care about. She's just straight up fun in the way she works. She could be a little tough. She's not super overpowered, where you still have to figure out the board state, right? You still got to work around things, which is nice. It's not just like a given win. But man, she has been super fun. I've really enjoyed her. Specialized training, I will say, is a borderline broken player side scheme. It's grossly good. It's something that I'm contemplating putting in every single deck now, because if you get in like combat specialist or protection, or whatever the specialist that you want is, and you get +1 to it or 4 hit points, like it could be so strong. It could be so strong. And just you deal a damage and you exhaust this card and draw a card. I mean, that's nuts. Plus you get +1 attack for basically clearing 5 threat. That's insane. I mean, it's just specialized training, I think, is a little too broken. But maybe that's a video for another time. But anyway, X23, I think, was my biggest shocker from this cycle. Really enjoyed her. She's been a lot of fun. All right, last we have Deadpool. I recently just did the review of Deadpool, so I'm not going to go over this that much. I'm not a Deadpool fan. I think the hero's fine for what he is. To me, still plays as a rush hero, does a lot of damage. I don't like the pool aspect at all. I shouldn't say not at all. I'm not a big fan of the pool aspect. It's something that I've played a few times, and okay, it's something I might play once every other month, every 3 months. I don't know. That's it. So, but I will say, like Cut Upper and cards like that, where I can put it into Gamora's deck or playing it with Spider-Woman, that's been nice. That I've enjoyed. So I will say that has been good, and I enjoy the pool aspect for that. But past that, I don't know. I wasn't the biggest fan of Deadpool. I think he's my least favorite from this cycle. But power-wise, he's still very strong. So if I was to go from like least favorite to favorite, just off the top of my head, Deadpool is my least favorite from this cycle, I think, by far. That's pretty much a given. I think then it's Psylocke would be next. And then Angel and Cable, I think, are like right there with each other. Like, I'm not sure which way I feel yet because I still think Cable is better in the long run. I think Angel feels good now because he's just so, again, he's so aligned with how I play, which isn't always necessarily a good thing, but he's so aligned with the way that I play that I think it's just like naturally clicks. But I do think in the long run, Cable is going to be the more interesting hero to me. And then for number one, honestly, between Domino and X23, it's closer than I thought it would be. Because here's the thing. Again, I love Domino. I love the way Domino plays. But I've already played a lot of games with her. I mean, it's got to be 40 some games now at this point. Love her. Maybe more. I don't even know. I wish I kept track. But I love playing with her. The problem with Domino to me is, again, there's like 20 some cards that you just put in, and I'm looking for those cards. And yeah, the aspect cards of Justice or whatever can like help a little bit. Leadership's at least a little interesting if I go the posse route. But like past that, it's like just I'm kind of playing the same strategy over and over, and that's bringing her fun level down just a little bit. Now, again, I still love her. I still love playing with her. I still think she's phenomenal. But when you compare it to X23, when I build out aggression, or I build out justice, or I build out this or that, whatever it may be, God, it just feels so unique and so different each time, right? It's so well done. It's so well done. I think they did, whoever designed X23, Michael Boggs and Tony, I guess, combined to do it. Did they write that for everyone? I wonder. But just whoever was the lead on that and like did most of the work on X23, I think did a fantastic job with X23. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. Deadpool was just straight up Tony. Interesting. So I guess Michael Boggs was just kind of a part of it from the very beginning. But anyway, yeah, I think X23 they did a really good job on. I mean, they did a really good job on it. It was really well done. Again, I do like Domino a lot, but my biggest worry is long term, how am I going to feel about her with different aspects? And maybe they come out with more cards like support Domino and do different things. So it's not like a nail in the coffin or anything like that, but that is my biggest worry with her moving forward. I figured we would be as fancy as possible, so I just brought up the old notepad. And this is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expansions that are out there right now. Now, what we're going to do first is actually really quick before I get into my personal rankings of what I think is the best. A lot of people ask what they should buy, right? The order in which they should buy things. If theme doesn't matter, I think you should go Red Skull. I think you should go Mad Titan Shadow, Sinister Motives, Mutant Genesis, Next Evolution, Guardians Most Wanted, right? Guardians Most Wanted is just such a rough cycle, and it's going to be discouraging. Save it for later on. All right, just deal with it later on. If you are really into X-Men, start with Mutant Genesis, Next Evolution, then go to Red Skull, then Mad Titan Shadow, then Sinister Motives, then do Guardians Most Wanted. If you love Spider-Man, just skip ahead to Sinister Motives, then go to Red Skull, then Mad Titan Shadow, then Mutant Genesis, then Next Evolution, then Guardians Most Wanted, right? You kind of get the general theme of this. Whatever, if theme matters to you. I know for a lot of people in this game, like theme is the most important thing. And like, look, I love Spider-Man. I love the Spidey stuff. So for me personally, I would probably go Sinister Motives, get all the Spider-Man stuff first if I was to redo things, then get Rise of Red Skull. I would actually maybe skip Mad Titan Shadow just because I've played so much of it at this point that I'm kind of over it. I go to the X-Men stuff and then whatever. So for people that ask buying advice, that's what I would say. So as far as what I love, right? This is just personal ranking of what I think is the best out there and the worst. And this is putting together how good the heroes are with how good the scenarios are, right? So the absolute worst one is probably Guardians Most Wanted. Now, I think Guardians Most Wanted has gotten better over time. I don't think it's as bad as people make it out to be anymore. Collector 2 isn't the worst anymore, right? I think it got a bad rap being right next to Collector 1. We were like, why do we have 2 collectors in a row? It's kind of silly. But Collector 2 isn't as bad as people thought it was. Collector 1 still is rough. Drang is fine. It's a fine scenario. I think Nebula is just so incredibly random that's really hard to deal with her. And Ronin is Ronin. Now, Ronin has gotten a bit easier over time, but Surge is still one of the hardest keywords to deal with. So it's still rough, right? It's still a rough scenario to deal with, but it can be done now that the power level is pretty high. It's still hard, but it's not as hard as it used to be, right? If that makes sense. So, and plus rushing strategies have gotten so strong that you can beat Ronin that way. The campaign is still punishingly hard. I know I've beaten the expert campaign once, maybe twice, but past that, I don't know. But other than that was really rough. I like Rocket and Groot. I think Groot gets a bad rap. Let me move this over so my head's not in the way as much. I think Groot gets a bad rap. I still think Groot is actually not as terrible as people make him out to be. Justice Groot, I still think is one of the strongest Groots out there. Protection, I think too many people are relying on the counters to like just absorb damage, which is not the way to play Groot. I think Rocket's not as bad as people make him out to be. Um, I don't know. I don't think the heroes are as weak as people say they are, but I get why people say that they're weak. You know, if that makes sense. So anyway, Galaxy Most Wanted, I think is the worst one. Next up, we have Mad Titan Shadow. I can't. I Okay, let's start with the heroes. Adam Warlock to me is boring. I don't like deck building for Warlock. I don't like mixing and matching 4 aspects. You can only use one, and that is a 5th one, so they're trying to balance that into. I still think Wild Tutor is the best deck out there for Warlock. Yes, there are other ones that work well, which is fine. You can use any of them, but he's not for a game that to me it's all about like pick up and get up and go. Warlock slows all of that down a ton. It's just too slow. It takes him too long it takes too long to deck build for him. I don't think there's enough interesting choices to deck build for him. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of his. And Spectrum, I really don't like. I don't think Spectrum is fun. I don't think Spectrum is interesting. I think her phase form is just a weaker form of all other flipping cards. Like I think they've done it much better now. I don't like Spectrum at all. I don't think she's fun. As far as the rest of Mad Titan Shadow, Ebony Maw I think is fine. I think he's a fine first scenario. I think Tower Defense is fine. I think Thanos is one of the better scenarios. I think Hela is a really good scenario. I think the first 4 in general are really solid and really good, right? So why is this down in 5th? Because of Loki. Loki is one of the worst designed villains. I think he's worse designed than Ronan. All right. I personally have him ranked lower than Ronan. And it's not just that Loki is tough, but Loki also, he flips through side schemes and minions, right? And the way that he works. But the problem is there's only like a handful of each of those. So like you go through his deck constantly. It's not a good design. It's not well designed. It really is not well designed. The biggest issue with Loki isn't even the difficulty. It's not that they shoehorn the glove in, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever. It's not even, those aren't even the problems. He's just boring. Right? It's just attacking Loki over and over. And then, oh, you get a different form of Loki. Okay, let's attack him again and again. And then you get a different form of Loki. Like, it's just so incredibly boring. It's so boring. I cannot stand Loki. This is how bad Loki is. That the rest of that box, despite that I don't like Spectrum, and I Adam Warlock's fine. The rest of the villains in that box are really solid. Again, to this day, I still think Thanos is one of their best designs. I think Thanos is super fun and fair. I think Hela, in the way that she's designed, is amazing. I think Tower Defense is pretty cool in the way that's designed. I think Ebony Maw is fun the way he's designed. Loki is just that bad. Loki is just that bad. So anyway, that's kind of it's tough. It's really tough. So anyway, I would just say it's the second to worst one for me at this point. Yeah. All right, next, the top 4 get a little tricky for me. They get a little tricky in how to do things and whatnot. But honestly, for me, I think it's next evolution. I really don't like how easy it is. I really don't like how easy it is. Some of the design choices I think are actually good, right? I think it's good. Like I said, I like Juggernaut's theme. I like some of what they're trying to do with there. The Marauder set I think is fine, all that stuff. I just think the first 2 scenarios are really easy, and the last 3 are not that hard. Now, do we need every single scenario to be like a Venom Goblin or a Loki or whatever? No, of course not. Of course not. But the problem is putting it in the context of we had it after Mutant Genesis, and because I have the way I have to think is in the release order. We had Mutant Genesis, which had Magneto, which I still think is one of the most brilliant designs that they've ever had. Right? I think for villains, he's almost perfect. I love that the way that he was designed. And to go from that and then down to next evolution, it just feels off to me. I just don't like it. I don't like it. So we just talked about all the stuff in this box, so I won't rehash it all. Again, my biggest complaint is it's way too easy. It's too simple. It's too simple, and that really hurts it. But Cable and Domino are really good and interesting, so that kind of like helps bring the box up a little bit to not Mad Titan Shadow level. And it's just I don't know. It's just it. I had higher expectations and higher hopes, I guess, is the biggest thing. So it's not a bad box by any means. It's not bad, even though it's in the bottom half. But please understand, like, these top 4 are like close, right? It'd be like top 4 and then like a big old gap and then like Mad Titan Shadow, and then you can't see it, but it's on the floor as Guardians Most Wanted. So like please understand, like, these top 4 I think are all very good, right? But just we got to get into like the details with this stuff, and when you get into like the details, it's hard to put that higher up there. All right, next up, number 3, I'm gonna put Rise of Red Skull. I think this is still a really well done box. The campaign's pretty simple, which might be a downfall or a fault for it, but I think it's fine. I still think Taskmaster, Absorbing Man's way too easy for what he is. Crossbones is still a tough scenario, but a good one. Absorbing Man's too easy. Taskmaster's fine. He's more fun and expert, but he's still a bit easy. Zola, to this day, which is impressive, is still one of the most challenging villains out there. I mean, he's so tough to beat, which is great. I mean, it's just long-term design that was done well, and even with the power creep that's happened, like, he's still strong, right? He's still tough to deal with. It's so well done, in my opinion. And then we have Red Skull himself, where I still think doing the whole side scheme was a pretty interesting thing. I like how they did that. I think that was fun. And I think Red Skull is still a challenge, still good. I think Spider-Woman is one of their best designed heroes. So I love Spider-Woman in that. And then Hawkeye, right? He's fine for what he is. I don't love him. But that, to me, again, next evolution Red Skull, if these flip in the future, that wouldn't be like too shocking to me, right? Okay, I would get that. But yeah, it's just Rise of Red Skull, I still think is really well designed. I think they did a really good job. I think Spider-Woman has lasted so long, so well. I think Hawkeye's fine. But yeah, Zola, especially, Red Skull, even Crossbones, even though I hate doing all the modular sets for Crossbones, the 3 of them are so incredibly well designed. Taskmaster, I still think Taskmaster is fun and good. And then Absorbing Man, he's probably the weakest one. All right, number 2 is Mutant Genesis. Mutant Genesis, I think Shadowcat, when Shadowcat came out, I remember kind of blew my mind with how she worked. I still think she is one of the best heroes to come out of a big expansion box. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. Colossus, even though I don't like Colossus, I can respect the design of Colossus. I still think it's interesting and I think it's good. So I'm a big fan of that. I think Mutant Genesis over time has gotten better for people with like Sabretooth, right? When Sabretooth first came out, people were like, I don't know how to handle this. This is terrible. This is rough. And now he's a lot of fun. He's a lot of fun to deal with. He's just a tough first boss is all. But he's a lot of fun in my opinion. I really enjoy Sabretooth to this day. I'll still go against him a lot. The weakest part is the Sentinels and the Master Mold. Now, again, in context for me is important that, this was the first of the X-Men cycle. I felt like everything marketing wise was pointing to this being like the way to get more people into this game that are X-Men fans. And I think they've done that. So you needed some of those easy things. I still think it would have made more sense to be Sentinels than Master Mold, but whatever. They're still easy scenarios. They're not tough, but there's only 2 of them that are like that, I think. I think Sabretooth is a tough challenge. I think Mansion Attacks can be really tough, and they can throw different challenges at you, which I really like. I think it's cool. It's well done. And the big thing is Magneto. Again, I think Magneto carries this box. That's how good Magneto is. I mean, it's just, his design is so well done. It's really, 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 really hard in this game, I think. And it just shows how good the designers are to balance fair and tough, right? Because Ronan is really tough, but he doesn't feel fair, right? Let me rephrase this. Fair, tough, and fun. Let's add fun in there. Because Loki is tough. I wouldn't say he's fair. He's definitely not fun. Ronan I can have fun with now and again, right? Venom Goblin, which we'll get into, was really tough. I still think he's hard, but to me, he's still really good overall. We'll get into more of that in a second. Rise of Red Skull, same exact thing. Some of them are a little bit easier now because the power creep and all that stuff, but like Magneto just, to me, does every single thing right. He just does everything right. And to me, it's the most perfect, or the most perfect, villain they've had so far. I don't think he's absolutely perfect, but I think for a solo player, absolutely magnificent. Really, really good. And then the heroes in the box I think are solid too. So I really enjoy them as far as big box goes. Mutant Genesis is my number 2. I can make the argument for number 1 with it. We'll get into that in a second, but man, it's a really solid box overall. All right, then finally we have number 1, which obviously is Sinister Motives, the Spider-Man expansion. Now, here's the thing. I recognize that I am just a Spider-Man fan in general, and that's probably helping out the ranking a bit. But here's the thing. I still think Miles Morales' design is great. I think it's what Spider-Man Peter Parker should have been if they redid the game now, which is fine. I still enjoy Miles Morales for his. Gwen Stacy is still a hero I have so much fun with in general. I think she's absolutely phenomenal. So as far as heroes go, I think it was the first time where they had 2 heroes that were both just home runs, right? They nailed the design, they nailed how fun it was. The worst part about Miles is that his precon had shield cards in it that didn't make sense for him, so he was like trying to do 2 different things. That was the worst part. Once you get over that, he's absolutely phenomenal. And then the rest of the spider box, I think Sandman is fun. Venom, I still think is an interesting fight nowadays. Mysterio has grown on me. At first, you're kind of like, oh, this is a little weird. Still think Mysterio is a lot of fun now, though. I think the Sinister Six group is a lot of fun. Venom Goblin at the time was terrible. I still think he's rough and can be rough, but we have a lot more cards to deal with him now. I feel like power creep is kind of caught where, again, he's not easy by any means, but I still think he's tougher than Magneto and a little less fair than Magneto. But to me, I still have fun with him. I still feel like I have a fighting shot, right? Ronan and Loki, it feels like half the time I don't have a fighting shot because it's just the game's going to beat me. Venom Goblin, I still lose probably the same exact amount, maybe more, but I feel like I have a better chance. It's a really hard thing to explain, I guess, but it's just the way the 3 main schemes are set up and how they work and all. Like, I just feel like I have a chance, and that's good design in my opinion. That's well done. I still think Sinister Motos has the best campaign, and we didn't really talk about campaigns that much, but I think it's the best one out of all of them. And a lot of people don't play them for campaigns, so I get it. Like that's usually not important for most people. But as far as big box goes, man, I love the theme. I love everything about it, and I think everything they did in this box was solid hits, the home runs. Like, I really, really love it. So anyway, that is my ranking. I hope you enjoyed this on a notepad. But that would be my official ranking. Sinister Moves number 1, Mutant Genesis 2, Rise of Red Skull 3, Next Evolution 4, Mad Titan Shadow 5, Guardian 6. And again, please understand that 1 through 4 are pretty tight, right? They're pretty tight with each other. 5 is a bit more down. 6 is nowhere close. So if you're upset with my rankings, sorry, it's just my opinion. That's all. Well, there you have it. Those are my rankings for the big boxes. Again, please note this is just my opinion. We're all gonna have different opinions on what's the best, what's the worst, whatever. But I do think, even with Guardians, right? I do think it's worth, if you really enjoy Marvel Champions, I do think it's a box worth getting. I don't think there's any box here that isn't worth getting, which is great to see for the game. So it just might depend on what order you get things is all. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's been a lot of fun. This cycle is now done. We get to deal with Age of Apocalypse now, which, I have decent hopes for. We'll see how it goes. Hopefully it will close out strong. This is the last X-Men cycle we will get for at least a little while, I assume. Because we do know it's going to be 3. We don't know how big a gap is from 3 to 4. Probably a long time, I would assume. It'll be nice to get to something else. Hopefully, Kool-Aid Man. But yeah, anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. I appreciate you all watching. If you haven't yet, do me a huge favor, hit the like button, hit subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you all next time.